Governor Hochul released her proposed budget this week. Included in the overall $250 billion budget is $13.5 million to help schools restrict cell phone use. Hochul wants the legislature to ban cell phones in schools, as at least 8 other states have done. Her proposed ban would start in August, but leave it up to schools to enforce. So Tara, should the state ban cell phones K through 12?
Absolutely. And I want to make this clear, with exceptions for medical use, educational use, et cetera. And one of the good things about this proposal is she leaves it up to the districts to actually create the plan and to also come up with the system for basically locking down, let's use that term, the cell phones. You know, whether it's students come in and they have to show that the phones are completely shut off, or whether they leave them in the lockers, whatever that will be, she leaves that up to the districts. And part of the reason this actually is a good idea is because while there has not been a study that specifically can make direct links, and that's studies are in the works, but certainly anecdotally and in terms of what psychologists and psychiatrists are seeing, excessive cell phone use, especially being on things like TikTok, Instagram, et cetera, is leading to depression, low self-esteem, cyberbullying, et cetera. Furthermore, it's a big distraction during school. But now the flip side of this is that for many students, having a cell phone no longer is simply something that's an addition. It's a necessity. It's how we do many of our applications. You have to do them online. They do them on their cell phones. Parents want to be able to contact their children in case of an emergency. Many times this is the way that if you're working, and many juniors and seniors are working, this is how you contact your fellow employees. This is how you're notified by changes on your job, et cetera.
Okay, it's interesting you mentioned TikTok, and we didn't bring up TikTok in the previous discussion, which we'll have to at some point.
Can I just agree?
But yeah, yes, you certainly may.
No doubt they're distracting. But as you said, and as the governor said in the piece that she's proposing, individual districts and schools are best poised to make decisions about the implementation. Many of them have. Why does the state have to step in here? Why shouldn't this be under the control of local districts? If a district doesn't have a problem, or maybe they've come up with a unique way of using these devices that actually aid instruction, they will be now prevented or going to have to go to the state to ask for an exemption. Local control here on this issue. So I don't see why it's well-intentioned, but another silly example of the state overreaching.
Except that the state's going to provide money.
That's what I was
right? So for some schools that have to have facilities where they can lock up the phones and monitor the phones, perhaps hire a person who's going to oversee the collection and distribution. I think otherwise it would be an unfunded mandate, right, to expect schools to do it.
Well, that's why I wouldn't mandate it.
Well, but if you're going to mandate it, also fund it, especially if research at the national level from teachers, from the 8 states that have already implemented it, show that this works. The state absolutely should play a role in helping to make it happen.
Yeah, you know, for a person who has been clean from social media for the last 10 years, I see people like, you know, and many students, like they're completely immersed within it to the extent and that we have a new word for it. Do you know that there's a word called nomophobia, which is the fear and anxiety of being without your cell phone and unable to use it, and thus experiencing feelings of panic, agitation, and other physical symptoms. This is now a medical term that you can use, nomophobia. And there are several peer-reviewed journal articles that I was going through, and they look at it at different ways. And one answer is clear, that cell phone usage during class time definitely has a negative effect on learning and learning behavior. And anecdotally, I can say from my class is that when I don't have any electronics in my classroom, and you know, some years I felt like last year that I will get terrible reviews. But what I actually saw is many students retook my class. They gave me excellent reviews. And the reason they told me is that they had never felt a time in their life growing up where they were forced to kind of reckon with this experience of not having a cell phone with them. And when they were forced to kind of have that experience in my class, they were really, really happy. They saw that they were more present. Some people came and told me they felt calmer. So I do think this is a very good idea to restrict cell phone usage with certain caveats, right? That if there is an emergency, how do I get hold of my child, right? What do I do?
The legislation does not just prevent use of these in classroom. It says that they cannot be used at all during the entire school day, which again is going beyond what some school districts might think is appropriate for them. Again, I'm all in favor of school districts going through. And if the state would like to provide funds to help those that need it, I'm more than happy to do this, but why should the state be imposing this ban on local school districks when nothing prevents them?
So Rick, let's just focus on what Anirban said his experience in his class was. We're all educators here, and I mean, this idea of distraction, 75% of teachers say cell phone distraction was a major problem in their classrooms.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let the school district go through and then either say you can't use them in the classroom, or if they want to ban them from the entire day, let them make that decision rather than the governor impose it.
But can you imagine the parents that will assemble in these small rooms berating the local school district leaders for not doing this? And so I think in some instances this provides cover. But if I could go to the other side that defends having cell phones on the on the argument that they will help in, say, a crisis, especially if there is a mass shooting. To me, that's like saying, well, our way of dealing with mass shootings and violence is going to be by way of a cell phone, as opposed to actually dealing with gun violence and, other tragedies.
Well, this idea of compromising safety for parents is a real issue. They feel that they need to be able to contact their kids, shouldn't they?
There have always been emergencies, but we didn't have landline phones installed at every desk.
And the nature of the order, as far as I know, is that she leaves it up to the schools to enforce it. So the particularities of the program for a particular school would depend on the local authority. They're just providing the guidance and the money.